Welcome to another episode of Distory. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and tonight we are climbing aboard the train of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad here in Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Florida. We have been studying and focusing in depth in the queue, so we are looking forward to actually riding this sucker, because right now the queue is not really the wildest ride in the wilderness, so we desperately have been waiting to actually ride this thing. And with me, as always, to actually ride the train, come on, ride the train and ride it, is Kate the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how are we doing? Quad City DJs.
This is already on a hinge. I love that song, so yeah, I'm all over it.
That's my middle school right there. That's me running around going like this.
That's everybody's it's like that's our conga line of our generation.
Oh, it was,
song,
dude.
Right?
It was a total thing.
Anyway, I'm doing great. I am very excited to get on this ride, but I heard that you might have a few things we have to go backwards for.
Yeah. Let's do it. And I'll go through this quickly. When we were talking about the bird cages, I noticed this, and it's like a grabber arm. Do you see that?
Is it like a measuring device?
So questions, right? It's spring loaded. You can see there's a handle, but then there's also like pinchies. It kind of reminds me of like that infomercial thingy that, like, if you can't reach high up in
the grabber.
So when the only thing that I could find image wise that was similar to this is this guy right here.
Yeah.
A vintage steel spring tongs. Now this is saying that it might be used for fish, which I thought, wait a second, would they be feeding fish to the birds? I don't know. So just
interesting.
It's possible. I don't know. But the bird cages are right below it. So it also would make sense if it's just used for getting feed up into their cages or something bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, are we ready to actually get on the train and head on into this attraction? Because we got lots to talk about.
I am ready to board the train. In fact, I actually I got really, really lucky and was in the front row. I got
behind the ghost engineer. So, all right. So we're heading in. We've already talked about the load station. So let's head into the mine, which is where we're at down here. And we know that because we're in the load station. We saw the safety lanterns that are only used in the mines to, like what Kirk is showing you there. And so we know we're headed into the mine shaft here. And I feel like the very first thing we kind of arrive at, unless you have anything before that, is the bats. I think the bats are the first.
Yeah, they are.
So these are lightweight rubber bats versus Disneyland's animated ones. That's what this is a picture of, I think, is the ones that are in Disney World.
They look great.
They're hung on like a taut string, and then they have a fan that's blowing on them. That's how they move around. So spoiler alert.
That's not true. They're real bats.
They're real bats. They're also painted in UV paint, so that's why they glow in the dark. I feel like, though, I ran into something that I still have to verify. Kirk, have you felt like the bats, like air moving by you, like stuff blowing on you, as if the bats were flying by your head?
So they're kind of flappy. They're a little flappy. I got some good video of one like kind of flapping in a circle. Look how fast he goes by. See, but it is stationary, and you can see that the circle is it's just swinging on this.
Yeah. So I think the fans blow them around, and then sometimes they go in circles, sometimes they kind of blow side to side. It just depends on how the wind is blowing.
Oh, look, there's another one.
It's interesting though, Kirk, because I saw somebody say that in Disneyland, their bats have an effect that they actually like shoot kind of like jets of air at you, as if the bats are like flying by your head, to give you that extra sensation of the bats, coming at you. And I don't know if I've ever paid attention enough to notice that. So
we're moving rather quickly through this area that you already have like just like a general feel of movement that I don't think that it's necessarily doing anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's doing nothing.
The only other thing I have about this is that they have the red eyes that are watching you as well, which not everybody notices.
Don't be creepy about it,
dude. The bats are watching you, always watching. Always watching. Anyway, so next time you're on Big Thunder, pay attention to the bats and see if you can feel them actually going by. That's not just like the wind of the train moving forward, if that makes sense. So,
And if it also makes you feel better, you're in the dark, so nobody will see you acting silly around bats that are flying in the air. So you don't have to feel bad about it.
heading into Lift Hill, are you ready to move on from bats? Are we good?
I am.
Okay. Heading into Lift A, just like in Disneyland, remember this track layout is exactly like Disneyland's except in reverse. So a lot of the things, there's different theming that goes with it, but the tracks themselves are relatively the same. So heading into our Lift Hill A, there's something that used to be there that I found in most recent videos is maybe not illuminated. Maybe the light was burned out, but on the right-hand side, there was some mining equipment with a lamp next to it that was illuminated. And I don't know if you've ever seen that, Kirk. Like, I saw it in some old videos, but I've never seen it.
Okay, so that's my cue to tell my awful dad joke. So as soon as I see the mining hat and the pitchfork, I go, I can't believe they let miners on this ride.
Is that why you say it at that spot?
That is the exact same spot, and that is the exact specific reason. And then the best part about it is I've timed it to where the live stream will cut out because we lose service. So all they get is that as a loop for like at least 15 seconds. So if I'm lucky, I get that on a loop.
You're so cruel.
I am cool. Thank you.
Is it illuminated for you? Like,
yeah.
Is it lit up? I feel like
Yeah.
I have several videos of this going through the section where it's just pitch black. So maybe sometimes the light just burns out. So then we're headed into the stalagmite area, which is very similar to the one in Disneyland, except it is not rainbow colored. So if you remember what it was like in Disneyland, it was very much the Rainbow Caverns, kind of like a nod to that. So there's all different colors of blues and pinks and reds, and that's not what it is here in Walt Disney World. It is all oranges and reds and yellows mostly. So it's a warm color palette.
Red, orange, yellow.
And it's interesting because I was like, maybe they're not dripping the same. Because I was looking at the drips from it into the water that is coming down from the ceiling. This looks different. As I feel like there is real water in Disney World, and I need to go back in Disneyland and see if there's actual real water there, or if it's just a simulation effect of the pools of water at the bottom.
Okay.
Like they're dripping. That's what I mean.
I know what you meant.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like the effect of this has been updated over time, where it does look like it's like color changing. The pools of water look like it drips and the color changes.
Yeah, it's like one part projection, one part just colored lights.
But I think it used to be different. And so there was a note from one of our listeners of Distory. Shout out to Dave for making this comment about ones that were in Disneyland. He said, back in the 80s, we met a couple on a 2-week cruise and we got to know them well. And the husband, whose name escapes me, worked in Imagineering. The light in the pots, so it's under the stalagmites, or rather the light bulbs that made the effect work, had a life of about a month and cost $25,000 to replace.
Whoa.
That's what he says. That's when that was real money. And I was like, that's real money to me. 25,000 is a lot. So he said he redesigned the effect so the bulb was a standard type of design and a minimal cost. The bulb now started to move vertically through colored lenses instead of the bulb just changing color. So I think that's how the effect used to work. It was like lenses going over a light bulb and changing the color that way.
Yeah, just like going in front, much like a scrim or a gel for movie production.
Right, exactly. So I think that they've updated it since then. Looks more like projection now than it did then. But I just thought that was an interesting story. So shout out to Dave. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's interesting.
Thank you, Dave. I'm shouting him out, dude. Well, I'm whispering him out. But...
I don't know if you have anything else about the stalagmites in general.
Not in this section, although we're not cresting yet. We've not gone out. Are you trying to leave the cave?
I think we're trying. I think we're like the waterfall that is not there anymore.
Right. So that's what I took a picture of, is the waterfall that does not exist anymore.
But yours hasn't transferred to the left like Disneyland has.
No.
There's no waterfall on the left. Like Disneyland's just flat out switched it. So
no, we don't have any agua. It is dry.
And it's been that way for a while. Like, I keep waiting for it to come back and it hasn't. So
Nope.
I don't know if they're just like flat out changing that for the attraction. So I don't know if people are putting their hands out. I don't know if it's like some sort of water safety issue. I don't know. Structural issue. I'm not sure, but it feels like I'd be really surprised if the water comes back. It's more likely I feel like they might do what they did in Disneyland and built that waterfall on the side. That's my guess.
The other option would be projection mapping if they wanted to. Because similar to something like they did with like Navi River Journey, because again, less costly. Maybe it looks dazzling, because like you could have it like spurting out and time it. I don't know.
I know, but it would never
boy can
replace
dream.
the real water. The real water was iconic.
Real water. What do you think when you go on Pirates that's in real water? Kate. Oh my gosh.
Projection mapping.
Oh my gosh.
So are we ready to go over the hill?
Let's go over the hill.
So we leave, and now instead of going to the right like we do in Disneyland, we're going to go to the left because it's reverse.
To the left.
And then we make a U-turn around some cacti that are very much familiar, because if you remember when we started this series way back weeks ago, Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland had some very similar cacti, and that's because these are imported from that attraction. So the same cacti.
Yay, cacti.
And they also have some skulls down below that's also kind of reminiscent of that Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, where all those animals...
Poisoned water hole.
Someone poisoned the water hole.
Someone poisoned the water hole. There's actually multiple skulls too. It took me a bit, and I know I have a picture somewhere, but there's at least 3 of the same like cattle. Here's a better picture of cactus. Get excited, kids. Not just one picture of cactus, but I got all 3 of them.
Oh, that is a good picture of cactus.
See, look at that.
Look at you.
I know, dude. I wrote it 3 times and took 1,000,000 pictures.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll share them all later on. I didn't put them in the shared drive, but I'll make sure just in case you want to make a cactus video, which you're the prickly Pete that probably would.
For sure going to make a cactus video. That's going to happen. Now, I just designed a live stream for this next week for Disneyland that's all about trees in Disneyland. And I challenged myself. I was like, I'm going to find 15 famous trees in Disneyland. I was like, this sounds like a tall order. I was like, that's not enough. I might have to do more. So I have at least 15.
You need more trees. I can think of at least 6 right now off the top of my head, and I don't even know Disneyland that well.
Yeah, I won't give it all away. The petrified tree. There's lots of trees. There's some that
do the big
most people don't even notice either. So very excited for that. Anyway,
there's some that aren't even trees. How about the little man's tree? Are you doing that one? Like the guy the little.
That's
man
what I'm saying.
Disneyland?
Like there's all these little ones. Like, do I add these in or not? So I'm still trying to figure it out.
He lives in the tree. The Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse.
It's good. There's so many trees. So yeah, I think I have to add more and just make it a longer live. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Anyway, so we're going around this U-turn and we see the cacti. We see the animal bones. There's also an upside down ore cart that I think is part of the storytelling for it being maybe overturned in the flash flood. And then after that, we head around some turns and we head into the town of Tumbleweed. Are you ready to go to Tumbleweed?
I'm ready to go to Tumbleweed.
Yes. I was so happy to get to this point. I've been wanting to stare at this for so long.
Tumbleweed is great.
It is. It's so great. One of the first things we encounter is something, and I have all just screen grabs from this, so sorry for that. Maybe you have better photos than I do. But we do see some possums on a tree, just like we did in Disneyland, which we talked about as kind of an ode to Marc Davis, which we see a lot of in this attraction. But there's a mama, and then there's 2 swinging ones, which one is cut off here in this picture, but they swing around when you go by. And then there's another baby that's in the trunk as well.
Actually, you know where I have a better picture of this is from the train.
Oh, yeah. The train has great views of this.
Because it's a lot slower, too.
Well, if I can mention, that was really what was intended. That is what this area is about. Because if you've ever gone through this area of Tumbleweed and you're like, I could only see like 2 or 3 things and it all went by really fast. And like, that was really intentional. So there's a question asked of Tony Baxter. He said, do you think people will be able to see this going by so fast on the coaster? And he said, absolutely not. They're not going to understand anything about what's going on. Like that guy floating in the river in the bathtub, which we'll get to. He says, well, then why did you do it? He said, have you ever noticed that there's this train that runs around the park called the Walt Disney World Railroad, and they don't see anything? They'll be able to see this and experience part of Big Thunder even if they aren't inclined to ride a roller coaster. They'll be able to see a big scene and they'll get a narrative on board the train. So it's kind of like he made this big scene not only to improve the Walt Disney World Railroad, but also for the people that maybe will never physically be able to ride Big Thunder, they'll still get to be part of the story, which I think is really cool. So
yeah, and I'm going to be honest, that railroad stinks except for from Frontierland to Fantasyland. And a big part of it is this part and as we go around the rivers of America. Because there's no other vignetted scenes in any other part. So you couldn't see anything. Like there's like maybe barrels. And then I guess looking into eventual Tiana's Bayou Adventure. But it's such a small part.
It's like that one side of the track.
And it's like a small window. It's not even like a big viewing. It's just, So anyway.
Yeah, I agree. The train is not as fun in Disney World than it is in Disneyland. But this scene in particular is pretty great. And your best view of it is from the train, because even if you're on Big Thunder, you're going to go by so fast, you're not going to see a lot. So that's why we're doing this, to show you all the little tiny details too, so you don't miss anything. So that's the possum. I don't feel like we need to cover that again because we already talked about it a lot in Disneyland. So then to the right side is where we have the Roadrunner and the snake. That is a Marc Davis concept from a long time ago. So here's the concept art, if you might remember. This is for Nature's Wonderland. So Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. You can see this little scene of a roadrunner and a snake kind of having a standoff in the desert, and the snake is perched on top of a rock. I think he said it's a gopher snake. Yeah, small gopher snake. And then he said it's just limited animation. His wings move up and down for the bird and his beak opens, and then the gopher snake's like tongue moves. So yeah, you can see the original concept art there, and then you can see how they actually set it. And it's interesting that Marc Davis says make it a little bit bigger than what it actually needs to be, because when people are seeing it from a distance, he says make slightly larger than life size. It will look smaller outside.
Yeah, and I will be honest, you will never see this on the attraction because of those bushes and the cactus right there. But when you are going up that second lift hill, if you look all the way to the left, you could pick it out. If you see the bobcat with the cactus, look to the right on that second lift hill, and that's where this scene will be, over this small little tiny chicken wire fence.
Yeah, it's really hard to spot on the attraction. It's much easier from the train, but even that, you could still miss it on the train. I only saw this like recently because I was like, oh my gosh, look, it's there. So
come on, ride the train and ride it. It's honestly the best view of that.
Yeah,
is from there
for sure. Do we want to talk about the bobcat, since bobcat's next door?
Sure. Yeah, bobcat it up.
I feel like we've talked about the bobcat a lot, so we don't need to go into deep detail about this. But if you remember back in Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, this is one of the scenes that Marc Davis pulled for the attraction to kind of plus it. And it's a scene that's from The Living Desert. So it's from the true life nature documentary, The Living Desert. And it's a bobcat that's been chased up a tree by these, looks like wild pigs. They're called peccaries or javelins, depending on what you want to call them.
Or if you're in track and field.
So this was in Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, and then they imported it to Walt Disney World when they made this Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So they just wanted to do a little bit of adding in some of those classic animatronics and, repurposing them, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I love that. And then that came from the original documentary, this exact same scene. So it's cool to see nature being reflected accurately in a ride.
All right. At this point, the track has gotten really wonky, like something's happening to the ground underneath it. Do we want to talk about do we want to mention the backstory of this, since it's been a few weeks?
Yeah, let me so basically the town of Tumbleweed is going through a massive, horrible drought. And so this lack of water is really impacting the town. It's also impacting the way that mining works, because you need to use lots of water for the mining equipment, mainly like sluices or rock hoppers, like anything that you would need to start kind of trying to separate any of that, the material, the raw material, and dirt and clay and soot and all that stuff to get into the actual gold. So as a result, a charlatan who is a snake oil salesman by the name of Professor Cumulus Isobar, which cumulus is for clouds, so rain, is going to come into town to solve their problem of water. But he does not solve the problems, and in fact, it's the cursing of the mountain itself that creates a flash flood instead. But we do get to see Isobar and his rain machine, which does not work, and his beast of burden, his little pack mule on the left-hand side, and then his big old machine.
Yeah. So there is so much to unpack here, like so much in this one little scene that I'm so excited. So you mentioned cumulus is a type of cloud. They're like the cotton ball clouds. So it's the detached, generally dense clouds with sharp outlines that develop vertically in the forms of rising mounds or domes. So they're kind of like flat on the bottom and like fluffy on the top. But isobar is a line drawn on a weather map or chart that connects points at which the barometric pressure is the same. So if you're looking at like a weather map, have you ever seen these kind of like gray lines? Those are isobar lines. So that's what that's about. So this character is similar to one that was in the Western River Expedition plans for Marc Davis that he made, which if you remember the backstory of this, that was what was supposed to be here. And then Tony Baxter was like, hey, like maybe we just make this portion of this runaway mine train thing, and then we build Western River Expedition later. And then the powers that be were just like, no, that sounds cheap and we don't have to build all this other stuff. Great, like cancel the rest of that. Let's just build this. And so Marc Davis's stuff never got built. So there's a tremendous amount of nods to Marc Davis, especially in this scene. I think as kind of almost an apology for what happened. So if you look at this is Doc Cogwheel's magical elixir. And you even see there's two donkeys. Do you see the donkeys in yours, Kirk? Yeah. They're right next to it, just like in this concept art. So
ours don't have feed bags, though. I want a feed bag on my donkey.
Yeah, you need some feed bags. They're kind of braying at you instead. So this is, it's supposed to be a charlatan that comes in town and tries to sell you a quick fix, right? Same kind of concept with Cumulus Isobar. Now, that's not all that's here. I love that he has all these like barometric pressure gauges on top of his little wagon there. And it's also very ironic that he's trying to like bail water out of his wagon.
Yeah, and I just noticed this says fire only, like a fire bucket. So yeah. Obviously it is an emergency for him.
Look at him go.
Why does he have no shoes?
Well, it's wet. It's water. Probably trying to protect his shoes. They only had so many pairs of shoes back then, and they didn't want them to get ruined.
Actually, a really good picture. Look at this light gleaning over the track. Oh, it came out really nice.
Yeah. Did you take that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I did, dude.
I don't know.
I could do some things.
Britt said you couldn't. So behind it, though, do you see the butte or like a mesa that is behind it? Do you see a flat top mesa?
She's a real butte, Clark.
No, this one specifically. Do you see the mesa's flat there?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So the concept of a flash flood and Cumulus Isobar is a reference to the rain dance that was going to be in Western River Expedition. So that's why we have this flat top mesa behind it. You see this? This is the concept art.
Oh, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So the plan for Western River Expedition was like the big climax of that ride was going to be that they kind of called down the rain, and then there was this massive flash flood. And then you would go up this waterfall, the up waterfall, like this.
A water up?
Yep. And then you would go down the other side in a giant splashdown, almost like Splash Mountain. So this is why we don't have an up waterfall in Pirates, is because this is what Marc Davis wanted to have in Western River Expedition, and he couldn't have two gags that were too similar in two different attractions in the same park. So this idea of a flash flood absolutely came from Western River Expedition. I have another piece of concept art that is from that. It's a little bit of a simplified version of that rain dance, but you can see that they were dancing around on top of this mesa, and it brought down a flash flood, and that's where we get this entire storyline from.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really fun to kind of dig into just that little scene with Cumulus Isobar. So much stuff going on there, and even this like mesa that's behind him that was directly from Marc Davis's concepts.
Oh, Marc.
Oh, Marc.
He's probably so mad, dude.
Oh yeah. I think he was very sad. So let's talk about the man in the bathtub who is relaxing in his long underwear. I think most people don't even see this that are on the attraction, quite honestly. Like, you're looking from the train, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I snagged this one because I almost turned around this side. But anyway, so this is the man relaxing in his long underwear. This is very similar to when Walt Disney, he described Cousin Orville, who's now Uncle Orville in the Carousel of Progress. Walt Disney actually physically got into the tub and had his toes stick out on the side and was like wiggling them and like demonstrating to them how they should be setting that scene up for the staging of that. And so I feel like that's exactly, Marc Davis was there when Walt Disney did that. So I think this is just a little bit of a nod also to when Walt Disney did that. And it was a memory that Marc Davis was bringing back. Or at least I think that was like, because there's concept art for Marc Davis that shows, you can see here, that he sketched when Walt Disney jumped into the tub.
With his tootsies out.
With his tootsies out. Mm-hmm. Different pose, obviously, because this is not Cousin Orville, now Uncle Orville. But same kind of concept, you know?
Yeah.
Pulling it back to that time.
It's not much of a reach.
Yeah, I love this one. It's like, he's now seated in the tub so we can see his toes wiggle. And then there's next to him is just a chicken coop with two chickens looking
Can
on.
we talk about how long the shower head is?
It is long.
It's the longest shower head I've ever seen in my life.
You know what it reminds me of is the penguin, Pablo the penguin. Have you seen that? Where he puts, I had this book growing up. So it was like he's the penguin who hated the cold. So he's like trying to escape the poles, right? He wants to go somewhere warm. And so along the way, he has this like bathtub on this like block of ice that he's floating, but the ice, you know, progressively gets smaller and smaller as it's getting warmer. And so he ends up getting in his bathtub, and it's like the drain has a hole in it, so the water's coming up through the hole. So he sticks that shower head inside the drain, and it like makes this effect. It's a Disney thing where it like the water now comes up through it and creates almost like a motorboat effect.
Oh, he's got like an engine.
Yeah. I wonder if a little bit of elements of that are coming into it as well, because it's very, very much classic Disney history there. I don't know for sure. This is just speculation, but that definitely was a thing back in the day, was those old time shower heads and using them for gags. So
that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever noticed this sign with the rooster on it.
Oh, I didn't get the other side of the sign. That's fun.
Yeah, it says Tumbleweed population 2015, 247, 13, and then dried out. So this is clearly before the flash flood.
Right. Storytelling element there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a rooster on top too.
I know. I missed a couple of chickens during my chicken day.
No. You get to go back. Chicken Day Part 2.
Dude, I missed those ones, and I also missed 2 in Fort Langhorne. I just saw them on Tuesday and was like, son of a...
Yeah, there's some there.
Fort Langhorne?
Yeah. That's where the guy in Fort Langhorne that's snoring, that's supposedly the man in the web from the Haunted Mansion, too. That's like how they repurposed him. Anyway, should we move on to the shops?
Let's shop.
Let's do some shopping.
Drop.
Alrighty, so first we see everything in this town is very much like tied into the storyline and also to this flash flood / drought. So we see the dry goods shop, which is a pun in itself, right? Do you want to read the sign there?
Dry goods, dehydrate, you wither, proprietors. So yeah, if you dehydrate,
and
wither.
And you wither.
Oh, and you wither. So yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that it's dry goods. It's talking about hydrating, and then the fact that this place, the whole entire thing is now flooded now. It's like it's 3 puns on top of each other. It works great.
And it's literally sinking into the water with like broken port. So he overhydrated, I think is
Clearly.
the storytelling. And there's also your little goat. You get your little goat on the roof.
This is our only goat.
Billy the goat hanging on the roof. With no dynamite, which is super sad, like, because dynamite's just not a huge part of this story. It's all water related. And then we have next to that is the Miners Hall / Gold Dust Saloon, which is definitely sinking into the water. And it's struggling to stay afloat, but yet there's a lot of people inside that are partying and having a good time.
Yeah, they're having a blast. Well, this is so great because, hang on, can you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
Ready? We're going to go back in time. Can you pull up the Pecos Bill bulletin board next to the map? Okay, so on this note, it says, all friends, come celebrate my marriage to the prettiest lady in Tumbleweed, my wife Sue, at the Gold Dust Saloon. Drinks on you, Bill. So that's Pecos Bill, and we're in the Gold Dust Saloon. But wait, there's more. You're going to love this one.
I love this.
You don't have this. I know you don't.
You think I don't. Okay, go for it.
Did you ever look inside?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I love it.
Okay, well, inside you can see Slewfoot Sue because you can see her braids. So if you want to see what she looks like.
You can see them all. They're all dancing.
They're all dancing. So there she is. 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 Camera 1. Camera 2. Camera 1. Camera 2.
Well, you can see them all dancing at night. It's like it lights up at night. So you can see all the windows are illuminated and there's
but could you tell from there that it was Slewfoot Sue?
Well, I've looked at pictures of it for studying this.
Whatever. I thought I had a good picture. Never mind.
It's great.
No, it's great. Yeah. This is great. I love this
so
show. This show is great. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
so I had a good picture of it. That's all
you
I'm
did.
to say.
It was a good picture. I agree. So this is also a nod back to Marc Davis. He had a whole bunch of concepts for the Western River Expedition, and the name of his saloon actually changed quite a bit because I looked through. If you know anything about Marc Davis's creative processes, he would just like create like crazy, do a whole bunch of different concepts, and then this they had places they could pull from, and then most of it was just not used. That was very much part of his creative process. So he had a whole bunch of different places that he created for the saloon. So here's one that is the Golden Slipper. So instead of the Gold Dust Saloon. So, and then there's also one called the Gilded Lily and the Dance Hall Saloon. So everything kind of going back to gold in some way, which makes sense for a mining thing. And then, in Disneyland, we have the Golden Horseshoe Review, and Disneyland's in Rainbow Ridge there, we have the Gold Nugget Dance Hall. So they're all like gold related, but they're not.
I love gold.
Gold. Oh man, that's an old reference now.
Everything's an old reference. It's Distory, dude. There's something new here. Like, you get that, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so true.
Like, this is an old show.
That's true. Okay. Are we ready to move on from the gold?
Yes, we can move on from the Gold Dust Saloon.
All right. I did see a wagon on the right that it just looked more like staging for this. There had a barrel of whiskey that you can see from the train. I didn't really have anything else to say about it unless you do, Kirk.
No, I got the same exact picture that you did of the wagon. And again, the only thing of interest is the whiskey in there. Yeah. Everything else is, and obviously you're assuming that they're probably delivering to the saloon. There's the wagon right there.
Which would make sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we have there's a windmill, which remember I mentioned that because you can see that windmill from the queue. And I was like, I've never seen that turning. I don't know if it's just like it legit will just turn when it's windy. And maybe that's why I've seen it turning and not sometimes. This is from when they were constructing this. You can see that the windmill that is next, it's right behind what's the word I'm looking for? Gold Dust Saloon. Wow. Struggled with that one. So I don't really have anything much to say about that except that it's there. I think it also is a little bit of weather related, we're talking about wind and rain and all the flash floods and things like that. So I think it's more storytelling in that way.
Yeah, maybe.
And then to the right, there is then a water tower that is overflowing and creating a whole bunch of mud. Did you see the lamp that's underneath it? It's like a random lamp underneath it.
Tubular. Totally tubular.
Sometimes it's lit up in the night too. I'm like, why is there a lamp under there? That I don't know. But I love what is near the mud that this thing is creating. So underneath where like the downspout is for this water tower is a whole bunch of pigs that are wallowing in the mud. There's 3 of them to be exact. And this to me is such an it's alluding to Marc Davis's pigs. Like they look so happy.
They're the Pirates'
Caribbean.
pigs. I've thought that for so long and talked about it on live streams that it's the same pigs from Pirates.
They look almost identical.
They're the pirate pigs.
Like look at this. Like they're
Pigs.
happy. They're rolling around. And they do change their staging every once in a while because I have a couple different pictures of them. Like sometimes the big one's missing. Like you can just see the little ones, which I think is what you have there. But there's a big pig that is just like a very contented, smiley pig that was so Marc Davis.
Yeah, that's great.
You know? And so this to me, I think is the reason why we have the thing that's next to it over the mine where we're entering next. Do you want to talk about that?
No, because I don't know anything about the Davy Jones mine.
Well, that's what I think, though. I think I've been trying to figure out why in the world is it a Davy Jones mine? How in the world is that connected to...
Big fan of the monkeys?
Davy Jones has to be a Pirates connection. Has to be. Because there's the pigs that are there that are from Pirates. I feel like it has to be like a nod to the reason we didn't get the Western River Expedition was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they stole it. And so we're going to name this mine over. And like, my brain's like, oh my gosh, it's a thief that stole something, is a pirate. And so they put something from Pirates there next to a sign about pirates because what was supposed to be there and we're using pigs that are Marc Davis's. Something was stolen from Marc Davis. I'm like, I don't know for sure. This is all my speculation.
That's a good speculation. Listen, I got bullied in high school. I went to a pirate high school, and I would always get stuck in my Davy Jones's locker. They would always push me in there. So, it was the worst, dude. I hated it. So I don't want to really talk about this that much. Yeah, dude. They don't get good grades or anything.
Anyway, I did look up, like, is there any other mining references to Davy Jones anywhere? There is a real gold mine, the same Davy Jones in like Queensland. And I was like, I don't think that has any connection to it at all. It's like the Pirates of the Caribbean one has way more chance of being connected to it than anything else. Yeah, so that's why I think it says Davy Jones. But I mean, that I'm leaving it open to whatever y'all think, because I don't know for sure. I don't have confirmation about it.
Whatever
That's
y'all.
just my best guess.
Whatever y'all think.
We are in the West. So
yeah, it sounds like Southern Kate has come out. The Southern Belle Kate.
I don't know.
Whatever y'all want to think is how the Davy Jones mine will be in there.
I'm not even going to try to attempt a Southern accent. I can't do accents. Anyway, so that's my theory about that. I don't really have anything else for Tumbleweed unless you do.
No. I'm ready to go into Davy Jones's mine.
Okay. So the interesting thing, the only other thing I did find that was on the other side of the fence, and I don't even have a great picture of it. And so this is your assignment, Kirk. I'm sorry you have to go back on the train again.
No, I might already have it.
Well, it's on the other side of the fence on the train. Did you see a poster that was like a Wells Fargo reward poster? I want to know what it says because I don't have a good enough footage of it. Did you get a great picture of that?
What Kate is talking about is let me go back in this video. So as we're going past Big Thunder, there's a quick little blip of a sign, and then you go into the town of Tumbleweed, right? So this is on the outside of that mine. And what does this say? Well, it says reward. Wells, Fargo & Co. will pay a reward of $250 for the arrest and conviction of San Juan Express robbers. John J. Valentine, General Superintendent, San Francisco, December 17th, 1870. It's either 75 or 76. So that led me down the rabbit hole of who is John J. Valentine. He was an American expressman. He was the first president of Wells Fargo and had been a banker and served all the way until 1892, and he died in 1901. So yeah, he was in California, and he started working at Wells and Fargo, or Wells, Fargo and Company, which came out of the Pioneer Stage Company and the California State Telegraph Company out of Strawberry Valley, California. And so obviously they had an incident in which there was silver stolen and some gold, and that is a part of this robbery.
Well, and I think that's another connection to Western River Expedition, because that was a major part of their plotline was these outlaws.
Well, the other thing and why this is important is that term expressman. Expressman was somebody that worked in the duty of packaging, moving cargo of sorts. Yeah. So this would be a train robbery, and that's why you don't see it necessarily in the mine. You see it on the other side while you're on a physical train. Whoop, there it is.
Wow. That's great. And great storytelling. I wish anybody could read that and know that's what that was.
Anybody who's listening, you're the only people who know that story.
Yeah.
Because nobody else knows that.
Well, it adds a little bit of like an element of danger. You know, it's like that your train could get robbed because they're still at large. That's why there's a reward for that. And
yeah, but I don't think anybody would. It's a shame that there's no like, I don't know, like bandits or something, or remnants of bandits. Maybe I have to look more. You know, maybe I'll find something.
Yeah, I feel like there does need to be more of that, but not. I mean, mostly we're just seeing tumbleweed, so that's really interesting. Oh gosh, yeah, they should add more. I mean, I don't think I've seen any in the woods or anything like that, but that would be really fascinating if they did have that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, train robbery would be. Are you listening, Disney? If you're listening, we've got a way that you could really spice up the railroad in Walt Disney World by adding a little bit of a train robbery backstory.
Yeah, rob people. Wait, what are we saying? Like, steal from people, right? Is that what you meant?
No, not what I meant.
Sorry.
Get me in trouble.
Most expensive day ever t-shirt.
Yeah, that's right. Knott's Berry Farm does do that. It's true. Okay, so are we ready to go? We're now in the Davy Jones mine, and we're headed to the B-lift hill, and we see a couple of things before we get there. And I don't know if this is like, I've been trying to figure out, is this a winch house? Is this a shaft house? Somebody called it that. Like, what is that? What is the structure? I'm not sure. It's a winch house in Disneyland. So
I think it's a shaft house, and the reason is it took me 3 rides to get a picture of this, because I have a picture of the shaft, and this goes into a mine shaft, right? So hang on, let me show you. Yeah, exactly. But if you notice, that little dial in the background is actually like a big part of how to actually know where we're at. See that like metal? Do you see that metal circle that's on the right-hand side?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's got things written on it, but it has depth to it. This is the tumbleweed shaft, and it says flooded out. And the reason why I know that this is the tumbleweed shaft is because if we go back to that assay board, the only part of the assay board that talks about a flooded mine or a flooded out mine is the tumbleweed shaft.
Oh, interesting. So now this is the one from the queue. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So here, if we go to the assay report board under conditions, you'll notice that at 300 feet, flash flood. That's the only one that's flooded out. There's some that have been caved in. There's some that have closed, but the only one that is washed out is the tumbleweed tunnel.
Oh, so interesting.
So I guess I could probably verify this one other way by looking at the map. Maybe the map would have something that would verify that too. You know?
Mm-hmm.
This is too hard to tell because there's nothing like, you see the Rainbow Caverns in this map, but then directly to the left. So like Rainbow Caverns are right there. You exit and then there's the tumbleweed tunnel, but it's not like, this isn't like a 1-for-1 because we go through all these turns and twists. But I mean, technically it is at the base of this spire, so that could make sense. You know
Well,
what
it's
I mean?
also, if you notice kind of where Tumbleweed is located on that map, it's in the prime position to have a flash flood because it's down at the bottom of all of these rocks, right? So like the storytelling wise, the location on the map and its location on the mountain makes sense.
It's
that,
a low point, you know. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So next to that shaft is something that I was like, what is this? It's a giant rusty tube with like a pressure gauge on it. And
It looks like my hot water heater. I think I need to change it.
it might be an old hot water heater. It's more likely it is antique. But I did look this up for quite a while because I was trying to figure out what this was. And my best guess is that it is a vertical boiler. You can see one here from this old rusted out kind of mining setup. It's possibly a story element because it has like a pressure gauge on it, and also boilers were known to explode. So it's also kind of an element of danger there in terms of like water exploding, all the same kinds of things that we have been encountering in this story so far. That's my best guess for that.
I'm scared.
Do you have anything for it? Because that's all I could find.
I don't.
Okay. I do see the on the right side we have there's two crates there that are on the right. There's one that says Wagner Ironworks. This has 12 core drills on it. A core drill is a hollow cylindrical drill that's used to make holes in the ground. So it's basically what you use to dig down in the ground and test the soil. So you like pull up a sample of the soil. Did you find anything for what Wagner is though?
So I looked up Wagner, and there was tie back to somebody who worked in Imagineering, or at least not in Imagineering, at Walt Disney World, but not specific. So this could be one of those weird, just random names. The only thing that I found with Ironworks, different spelling, it was Wagner, and they were out of Milwaukee, but the timeline is a little off. It was closer towards the late 1800s. So I got nothing.
That's what I found too.
I went right into a roadblock.
Right. And there's a little, I was like, maybe the thing that's next to it is supposed to be, helping us figure it out, because it says Professor of Metals, U.S. Geological Society instead of survey. It's like U.S. Geological Society. So it definitely is talking about the study of rocks,
Yeah.
So, and which would make sense for a core drill sample, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I have for that, unless you have anything else.
Mm-mm. So what I have, I'm going to show you guys a picture of inside this like tool area. And I would say tool because it's almost all hand tools. You see lathes, you see lots of different wrenches. But this little piece, this little beauty, had some writing on it. And I was like, wait a second. I need to look up what in the earth this thing is. And I found it. So welcome to the Champion Blacksmith Tools out of Lancaster, PA. So Champion Blower and Forge Company out of Lancaster, PA. And they're known for making a lot of drill presses. So this, even though it's not posted upright and it's laying flat on that, this is the patented automatic self-feed, lever-fed upright post drills, just laying down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting that they didn't mount it. They're like, we're just going to lay it down on here. Maybe it's broken.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you why they elected that in terms of, machining. But yeah, it's a fancy drill press, which was only $40. So,
it's a pretty good deal.
Give them away, dude.
Awesome. Do you have anything else on that side?
No.
Okay. I went to the right side more than the left side.
Dude, don't you know Disney World rules? You go left is always right.
I always go right. That's just like my habit. So it's really interesting that they have this thing that is on the side, and it is going around all these big wheels. I don't have a great picture. I have kind of more of a blurry screenshot. But if you look at this, do you remember back in the Disneyland queue when
Indiana Jones, dude.
Yeah, right?
It's Indiana Jones.
Right. Well, this looks like money equipment, though. And I was just like, did Tony Baxter know what he didn't know it was a thing, but it was actually a thing? And he just took it from the treehouse, but it actually was a thing. And so I looked it up. I was like, I'm going to go look it up. And guess what I found?
Is it a real thing?
Lift buckets shaft,
Wow,
bringing
see?
ore from the bottom of, this is like tipple something. This is like an actual mine. But yeah, there is like a looped thing with buckets on it that is bringing all of the material around that looks like this.
That's so fun.
It is a real thing. I think Tony Baxter just didn't know it was a real thing because the one in Disneyland does look more like the one on the treehouse.
That one's legit, though.
This one is legit, and this one does have the shape a little bit more like the one in Indiana Jones. So I don't know. It's really interesting that it is there. So and the only other thing is there is a couple of crates that are up above. And I tried to look at these. They're so hard to find. They go by so fast. There's another Wagner Ironworks. There's a Burke Tool and Supplies. So that one is for Pat Burke, who did all the set design. There's a barrel of nails. And then there's one that says Rookie and Kent Railway Supply. And I tried to look up Rookie and Kent. The best guess I have for that is that they are nicknames, maybe for somebody who worked on the project. That feels very much like nicknames or family names. Yeah, it's right there. And is there another railroad spikes too? Or there's like
this one. This one is.
Yeah. That shows up again and again in the queue is the railroad spikes, which makes sense for the train. But that's, I think, all I have for there that's relevant. The rest is all just kind of like miscellaneous tools.
Yeah.
But I think that for time, I think that's where we have to pause here this week. And then next week we will head up the rest of Lift Hill, and complete the rest of the ride. And there's still so much more to talk about in this. So I'm very excited to do the rest of this one next week.
This will be me lounging, waiting until we're ready for next week.
I can't wait. Alrighty. Are we ready to wrap it up?
Let's pull this train into the station.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us for Distory this week. We hoped you enjoyed getting on the train for Big Thunder and seeing all the tiny little details in Tumbleweed. Kirk, do you have any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
Don't go to high school with pirates because your grades will always be below sea level.
And if you do steal an attraction from a coworker, make sure you put lots of references to them in that attraction that you built instead. Oh,
Smart.
goodness.
Nobody gets upset.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate you guys, as always, and we'll see you next time for Distory.